Welcome to Zoe Stories. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt almost alive. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the neat stack of clothes my aunt had left for me. My heart pounded, not just from the anticipation, but from the embarrassment gnawing at my chest. I had always thought crossdressing was my private escape, a world of silk, lace, and subtle rebellion that belonged solely to me. Yet tonight it felt different. Tonight, it wasn't just a choice, it was a challenge. A bet that my aunt had devised with a mischievous glint in her eye, a bet that promised to humiliate me in ways I had never imagined. I am Alex, just your average guy with a secret. I work in marketing for a tech startup, a job that keeps me busy from 9 to 9, locked in the fluorescent hum of corporate life. My colleagues know me as reliable, professional, and predictable. They have no idea about the side of me that blossoms in private, the side that finds liberation in skirts, high heels, and makeup brushes. For me, crossdressing has always been a way to explore, to step into a world where the rules are different, where I can become someone else entirely, even if just for a few hours. It's thrilling, it's terrifying, and sometimes it's addictive. Then there's MIA, my girlfriend. Beautiful, sharp, and endlessly confident. She doesn't know the full extent of my secret life, only glimpses here and there. A delicate eyeliner I forgot to hide, a silky dress I couldn't resist trying on while she was out. She loves me, I think, but in her world, I'm just Alex, the boyfriend she trusts and leans on. And trust me, the thought of her discovering this side of me fills me with both longing and dread. I can't help but wonder, if she found out, would she understand? Or would she see me as different? My aunt's bet came completely out of nowhere. She had a reputation in our family for being audacious, always orchestrating little games that seemed harmless at first, but ended up turning everyone's comfort zones upside down. I had gone to visit her for the weekend, expecting her usual quirky challenges, like the time she made me wear that ridiculous chef hat while cooking dinner for the entire family. But this was different. She smiled, that sly, knowing smile, and said, "Alex, I bet you can't spend an entire evening fully embracing a different side of yourself." At first, I laughed. Surely she didn't mean fully? But then she handed me the outfit. Every piece carefully chosen. A sleek dress, stockings, heels, and makeup that promised a transformation so complete I might not recognize myself. I stared at the clothes, a mixture of excitement and anxiety gnawing inside me. Part of me wanted to resist, to put them away and pretend the bet never happened. Another part of me, the part that thrived in these secret transformations, felt a shiver of anticipation. What would it feel like to step fully into this persona under her watchful gaze? What would it feel like to become someone else entirely, even if only for a few hours? My fingers brushed over the smooth fabric, tracing the seams like they held the answers to questions I hadn't yet dared to ask myself. The room smelled faintly of lavender and polish, a comforting scent that clashed oddly with my nerves. I thought about the last time I had cross-dressed in private. Careful makeup strokes, the soft brush of fabric against my skin, the thrill of being caught in the mirror, and no one there to see it. This time would be different. This time, there would be witnesses. And not just anyone. Ants have a way of noticing the smallest details, of reading expressions and finding secrets in the quietest moments. The stakes felt higher, but somehow, that made it even more irresistible. I sat down, pulling the dress from the stack. Its fabric was softer than I expected, gliding over my fingers. I couldn't stop imagining how it would feel against my skin, hugging contours I had long ignored. The heels were tall, elegant, terrifying. I remembered tripping over a pair once, and the embarrassment had burned in my memory ever since. Yet, the thought of walking confidently in them, even if just in my aunt's living room, sent a thrill racing through me. My mind raced, imagining MIA's reaction if she walked in right now. Shock. Disbelief? Maybe a hint of admiration? The very idea made my stomach flutter. I glanced at the mirror. My reflection stared back, familiar and yet so different. Alex on the outside, yes, but there was a spark within me I had never seen so clearly, the side that wanted to explore, to break free, to step boldly into a persona that had been waiting in the shadows. The bet wasn't just humiliation. It was a key, unlocking a part of me I hadn't dared to fully embrace. As I lifted the dress and slipped into it, the fabric whispered against my skin. The stockings followed, delicate and cool. I adjusted the heels, wobbled slightly, then found my balance. My hands trembled as I applied makeup, each stroke a mix of precision and anticipation. When I finally stepped back, I barely recognized myself. My reflection was beautiful, unfamiliar, and intoxicating. The room seemed to shift around me, the air charged with possibility. And then a knock at the door. My heart skipped. Was it MIA? Or just my aunt coming to check her handiwork? I froze, caught between the thrill of exposure and the instinct to hide, realizing that this bet wasn't just about wearing a dress, it was about facing the consequences of stepping fully into another identity. One wrong move, and my secret life could be revealed, but one bold step, and I could discover something entirely new about myself. This was only the beginning. The first few minutes alone in my aunt's living room felt surreal. Every glance at the mirror, every step in the heels, made my pulse race. I could feel the fabric of the dress hugging me in ways that were both strange and intoxicating, reminding me that this was no ordinary night. This was a test, and every nerve in my body screamed both dread and excitement. I tried to steady myself, adjusting the wig she had meticulously styled for me. Its soft strands framed my face in a way that made my features sharper, more delicate, more feminine. I tilted my head, experimenting with angles, and the reflection stared back with an intensity one hadn't expected. Alex was still in there somewhere, but he was buried beneath layers of silk, makeup, and a persona that felt frighteningly alive. Then came the sound of her voice, teasing yet deliberate. "How does it feel, Alex?" My aunt's words were soft but carried that unmistakable edge of challenge. I froze, caught mid-step, and turned toward her. She leaned casually against the doorway, arms crossed, a sly smile tugging at her lips. "Remember," she said, "this isn't just about looking the part. You have to own it." "Own it," I echoed, my voice higher than usual. The word felt strange rolling off my tongue, like it belonged to someone else entirely. She nodded, her eyes glinting with mischief. "Yes. Own it. Move like her, think like her, feel her. If you fail," she let the threat hang in the air, unspoken but heavy. I swallowed, suddenly aware of every sound in the room. The soft tick of the clock, the faint hum of the fridge, my own breathing, and the thump of my heart pounding against my ribcage. I could do this. I had to do this. Not just for the bet, but for the thrill, the secret fire that had always whispered inside me whenever I crossed the line between Alex and her. I took a deep breath and tried walking across the room. The heels wobbled slightly at first, and I had to grip the edge of the couch for balance. But as I found my rhythm, a strange confidence began to build. It wasn't just the clothes or the makeup, it was something deeper, something I hadn't admitted even to myself. Being her wasn't just an act, it was a revelation. Each step, each sway of my hips, was an echo of a part of me I had long ignored. My aunt clapped lightly, drawing my attention. "Better," she said. "Now try sitting, like she would." Sitting in heels was an entirely different experience. I perched on the edge of the couch, knees together, hands folded delicately on my lap. Every muscle in my body tensed and relaxed in ways I had never experienced. The reflection in the mirror now seemed almost hypnotic. Who was I really? Alex? Or the version of myself she had coaxed into life tonight? And then came the first real test. My phone buzzed. A message from MIA. "Hey, just finished dinner. Can I come over a little early?" My stomach plummeted. The thrill of crossdressing in secret suddenly collided with the real risk of exposure. Could I hide this transformation in time? Could I return to Alex before she walked in? Panic surged, but it was mixed with adrenaline. My mind raced. Hide the wig, throw on normal clothes, act casual, or take a risk. I couldn't move. Part of me wanted to sprint to the bedroom and change, but another part, the part that thrived on challenge, whispered, "Let her see you." The thought was terrifying. MIA seeing me like this could end everything, or unlock a side of our relationship I had never dared to explore. My fingers trembled as I typed a quick reply, stalling her. "Running a bit late. See you soon." Alone again, I allowed myself to explore further. I ran my hands over the dress, marveling at how it felt to touch the silky fabric, how it clung and flowed with my movements. Each sensation was amplified. The cool brush of the stockings against my skin, the way the heels forced my legs into a more deliberate, graceful posture, the subtle weight of the wig framing my face. Every detail heightened my awareness, forcing me to confront the reality of the transformation. I approached the mirror again, studying every angle. My features had softened in ways I hadn't expected, my expression more delicate, more vulnerable. And yet, I felt a rush of power. 2. The audacity of stepping into a persona that demanded attention, that carried a boldness Alex rarely showed in his daily life. I practiced expressions, tilting my head, smiling lightly, moving my shoulders. The reflection was mesmerizing, seductive even, and I couldn't tear my eyes away. It wasn't just about the look. It was about control, or the illusion of it. My aunt had designed this bet not to humiliate me in the obvious sense, but to push me into vulnerability, while forcing me to embrace it. She wanted to see me exposed, navigating the tightrope of fear and thrill, and I realized, with a shiver, that I was loving it. Then the sound of footsteps in the hall made me freeze. My aunt? Or worse, MIA? The tension coiled inside me like a spring ready to snap. I peeked around the corner, heart hammering, and saw the cat leisurely padding across the hardwood floor. Relief washed over me, but only briefly. Every second alone felt like a countdown, a ticking clock toward exposure, toward discovery, toward the ultimate thrill of the bet. And that's when I noticed the small detail my aunt had left on the coffee table, a single, perfect stiletto, lying as if waiting for me. A challenge. A reminder. I picked it up, feeling its delicate weight, the sharpness of its heel. It symbolized everything: risk, transformation, temptation. Holding it, I realized that tonight wasn't just a bet. It was an awakening, a gateway to a side of myself I could never unsee. With one last glance in the mirror, I took a deep breath. I was Alex, yes, but I was also someone else entirely. Someone daring, someone unafraid to explore the forbidden thrill of becoming her. The game had begun. The longer I stayed in front of the mirror, the more the persona took hold. Every glance, every practice movement made Alex feel smaller, more confined, while her expanded into a space all her own. I could almost feel the power of it, the way confidence and vulnerability intertwined, the way every sway of the hips or tilt of the head carried a silent challenge. My phone buzzed again. Another message from MIA. "Hey, just parking outside. Don't keep me waiting." Panic surged like a wave crashing over me. I froze, high heels digging into the carpet, stockings shimmering under the dim living room light. My hands trembled, but not with fear alone, it was excitement, too. Could I really do this? Could I face MIA without giving anything away, without panicking, without betraying the thrill of transformation that pulsed through me? I glanced at the outfit laid out on the couch, a backup of sorts. A second dress, softer, safer, less staring. For a moment, I considered ditching the heels entirely, pretending to change into casual clothes. But then my aunt's words echoed in my mind. Own it. And something inside me rebelled against the idea of retreating. Retreat meant shame. Retreat meant hiding from the part of myself I'd only just discovered. No, I had to go forward, even if the risk was terrifying. I hurriedly adjusted the wig, smoothing stray strands, and took a deep breath. My reflection stared back, bold, defiant, feminine. I walked toward the hallway, practicing calm, measured steps, each click of the heels a drumbeat in my chest. The air felt charged, every shadow in the room a potential threat. My body was aware of itself in a new way, the curve of my waist, the sway of my shoulders, the delicate tension in my hands. It was intoxicating and frightening all at once. Then I heard it, a faint cough from the staircase. My heart lurched. Was it my aunt? She shouldn't be back yet. I froze mid-step, gripping the banister, trying to steady my racing thoughts. Every instinct screamed to hide, to grab the second dress and vanish into the bedroom, but the thrill wouldn't let me. Whoever it was, I had to face it as her. Alex, the voice came, light, teasing, yet deliberate. My aunt appeared at the top of the stairs, her eyes alight with mischief. I see you've discovered the heels. Her gaze roamed over me, assessing, measuring, almost predatory. I felt exposed, like a character under a spotlight, yet part of me thrilled at the scrutiny. I'm practicing, I stammered, my voice a notch higher than usual. My hands twisted nervously in front of me. Practicing, huh? She descended, slow, deliberate, letting her eyes linger. Do you feel different? The question hung in the air. I realized then that the transformation wasn't just physical. My mind, my emotions, my very sense of self was shifting. Every step, every sway, every flick of a curl in the wig reminded me of the secret fire I had kept hidden for years. I nodded, too aware of the heat rising in my cheeks. Yes, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Different. She smiled, sharp and knowing. Good. That's what I wanted. To see you step into her fully. Not just the dress or the heels, but the essence. Feel her, own her, and survive it. Her words were both a comfort and a challenge. I swallowed, realizing that survival wasn't just about keeping my secret, it was about embracing it completely, without hesitation. The moment of calm shattered when the front door creaked. Mia. I froze. High heels dug into the floorboards, heart hammering. There was no turning back now. I took a deliberate step toward the door, adjusting the dress, smoothing the wig, forcing calm onto my face. My hands trembled slightly as I opened the door. Her eyes widened, a flicker of surprise, curiosity, and something unspoken that made my stomach twist. Alex, you look different. Her voice was soft, but it carried that weight that made me wonder if she suspected something beyond the casual observation. I forced a smile, trying to maintain composure. Just trying something new, I murmured, letting my hand brush against the doorframe. The reflection in the glass of the hallway mirrored me back, delicate, confident, yet teetering on the edge of vulnerability. MIA stepped inside, still observing, her expression unreadable. New, huh? She said, stepping closer. You're brave. The word felt like fire. Brave? That was the first acknowledgement of the persona I had only just begun to explore. My pulse raced as I realized the challenge wasn't just about being her, it was about convincing MIA, convincing myself, that this was more than a costume. The next moments blurred into a tense stance. We walked to the couch, our steps measured, eyes meeting, each glance a silent test. I could feel the heat in my cheeks, the subtle tremor in my hands, the thrill of exposure. The conversation was light, casual, but underneath it, every word, every gesture carried the weight of my double life. Every laugh, every glance at the mirror, reminded me that this bet wasn't just about humiliation, it was about revelation. And then the cat leapt onto my lap, breaking the tension with a soft, ridiculous meow. MIA laughed, the sound breaking like sunlight through clouds. You really did go all out, she said, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. Her touch was electric, yet grounding. I realized then that the thrill of transformation wasn't just about secrecy or challenge, it was about the way it made me feel alive, exposed, and yet, incredibly, deeply confident. My aunt's voice echoed in my memory. Own it. And for the first time, I felt the weight of that truth. Owning it wasn't about hiding, lying, or retreating. It was about stepping fully into a side of myself I had only glimpsed in secret. Even as MIA chatted, oblivious to the full extent of the transformation, I knew the night was just beginning. The real tests, the stakes, the risks, the thrill, were still ahead. And every second alone, every moment of exposure, only amplified the magnetic pull of becoming someone else entirely. The night had only just begun, but already my nerves were stretched taut. MIA's presence was both a comfort and a challenge, a reminder that my secret could be uncovered at any moment. Every subtle glance, every pause in conversation made me acutely aware of the persona I had adopted. The heels clicked softly against the hardwood floor as I followed her to the kitchen, each step a delicate balancing act between confidence and fear. "Would you like something to drink?" I asked, my voice a soft, melodic tone I barely recognized. I caught myself in the reflection of the refrigerator door. The transformation was more than skin-deep now. My posture, my gestures, even the tilt of my head had changed. I was inhabiting this version of myself fully, yet the thrill was tinged with terror. One misstep, one accidental slip in tone or gesture, and everything would unravel. MIA turned toward me with that sharp, knowing look that always made my stomach twist. "You're different," she said again, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Her eyes weren't just curious. They were testing me, silently questioning what had shifted within me. I swallowed hard, forcing a casual smile, trying to anchor myself in normalcy while feeling the full weight of my aunt's bet pressing down. As I poured her a glass of wine, I noticed the tiny details she never commented on before, the way her gaze lingered on my hands, the subtle observation of my movement. Every flick of a finger, every delicate shift of weight in my heels, seemed amplified under her scrutiny. I realized then that this bet wasn't just about humiliation, it was about control, about pushing me to confront every hidden corner of my identity under observation. "Alex, you really do carry yourself differently," MIA said, taking a slow sip. Her words were casual, but the way she said them carried an intensity that made my heartbeat quicken. I forced myself to respond lightly, joking about trying new yoga moves, but inside, the thrill of her not fully understanding my secret sent adrenaline coursing through me. Alone in my mind, I couldn't help but analyze every sensation. The dress clung to my body with a softness that teased the skin beneath, and the stockings traced every curve of my legs. My fingers brushed against the fabric, an electric shock of awareness igniting every nerve. The heels, once awkward and intimidating, now lent me an unfamiliar grace. Every motion was a dance, every glance at the mirror a confirmation of how far I had stepped into this persona. Then came the first true obstacle, a knock at the door. My heart skipped. Who now? Another unexpected guest? My aunt? Or, God forbid, one of MIA's friends, turning an innocent evening into a potential disaster. I froze mid-step, clutching the hem of the dress, as if it could protect me from the exposure awaiting outside. MIA noticed immediately. "What is it?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. My pulse raced. Could I deflect it? Could I remain composed? I nodded toward the door, forcing calm into my voice. Probably just someone dropping by, or a delivery. The knock came again, more insistent this time. My body tensed as I considered my options. Retreat? Hide? Or confront it head-on as the persona I had just begun to inhabit. The thrill of exposure surged inside me, and I realized that this bet wasn't about avoidance. It was about embracing the risk, feeling alive in the vulnerability that came with it. I opened the door a crack, trying to appear casual, and found myself staring at the neighbor, Mrs. Caldwell. "Sorry to bother you," she said, holding a package. "I just wanted to drop this off. Didn't mean to interrupt anything." Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. The presence of anyone outside our intimate bubble was a reminder that secrecy was fragile, that every moment could tip into revelation. "Thank you," I said, forcing a smile, and took the package. My hands trembled slightly as I closed the door, and I felt MIA's gaze on me. The intensity of her observation made the fabric of the dress feel tighter, the heels higher. I swallowed, realizing that this was the first of many tests tonight. My aunt's bet wasn't just about humiliation, it was about pushing me to navigate tension, exposure, and desire all at once. We returned to the living room, and I felt a subtle shift within myself. The danger of almost being caught, The thrill of balancing identity and expectation made the transformation feel electric. I walked past the mirror again, studying my reflection. The person staring back at me was Alex, yes, but also someone entirely new. Every curve, every gesture, every carefully applied streak of eyeliner screamed her, and the knowledge that MIA might never fully understand yet heightened the excitement and fear in equal measure. "Do you want to sit?" MIA asked, gesturing toward the couch. My mind raced. Sitting in heels, maintaining composure, keeping the persona intact, it was another test. I perched carefully, adjusting the dress and crossing my legs slowly, deliberately. Every motion felt amplified, every glance at the mirror a silent reminder that exposure was always a heartbeat away. The night deepened, and the room grew warmer with our conversation. Laughter bubbled up between us, but under the surface, I was hyper-aware of every flicker of suspicion in her eyes, every hesitation in her tone. The thrill of the secret, the intoxicating pull of transformation, was now intertwined with a very real fear of discovery. My mind danced along the edge of two worlds, Alex and her, trying to navigate the delicate balance without falling into either extreme. Then I remembered the stiletto lying on the coffee table, the symbolic challenge left by my aunt. I picked it up with trembling hands, the sharp point gleaming in the dim light. Holding it, I felt a surge of audacious confidence. It wasn't just a shoe, it was a statement. A reminder that tonight, I was no longer just Alex hiding in secret. I was stepping into something new, something daring, something intoxicating. And with that realization, a shiver ran through me, not of fear, but of anticipation. The night was only beginning, and the challenges, the thrills, the dangers of exposure were far from over. Every heartbeat, every step, every glance in the mirror promised the next test, and I was ready to meet it head-on. By now, the night had taken on a life of its own. The apartment felt charged, each shadow and reflection amplifying the thrill and fear coiling in my chest. I could hear MIA laughing softly across the room, completely unaware of the full extent of my transformation, and yet every glance she threw my way felt like a test, a subtle measurement of how far I had stepped into this new identity. I rose from the couch, adjusting the dress and carefully balancing on the heels. Every movement had to be deliberate, every gesture measured. My aunt's voice echoed in my mind, a constant whisper. "Own it." The words had become a mantra, pushing me forward even as my nerves threatened to betray me. I wasn't just Alex anymore. I was a living paradox, a mixture of fear, thrill, vulnerability, and power. Suddenly, the apartment doorbell rang. My heart lurched violently. Who now? A delivery? Another neighbor? Or had MIA invited someone over without telling me? My pulse quickened as I debated my options. I could pretend to be normal, hide, retreat, or confront the interruption fully dressed as her. The thrill of exposure surged, irresistible, dangerous. "I'll get it," I said, my voice higher than usual, trembling slightly but carrying just enough confidence to mask panic. Each step toward the door felt like walking a tightrope. The reflection in the hallway mirror caught my eye, the dress clinging perfectly, the heels elongating my legs, the wig framing my face in a way that made me almost unrecognizable. I paused for a heartbeat, staring at myself. Could I really face whatever was outside and maintain control? When I opened the door, it was a delivery man with a large package. Relief washed over me, but quickly gave way to anxiety as I realized the box had my aunt's name on it. She must have sent another challenge, another piece of the game she had devised to push me further. I signed for the package with careful hands, trying not to tremble too visibly. The delivery man left, and I closed the door, my pulse still racing. I placed the package on the coffee table and tore it open. Inside was a delicate corset, laced in intricate patterns, designed to reshape my torso, to force my body into an even more exaggerated feminine silhouette. My stomach twisted with equal parts fear and excitement. This was no longer just a bet. It was an escalation, a challenge to fully surrender to the transformation and all the vulnerability it entailed. MIA glanced over, noticing the corset. "That looks intense," she remarked casually, though her curiosity was unmistakable. I forced a laugh, trying to downplay the significance. "Just something my aunt sent over. She likes her little surprises." The words felt hollow even as they left my mouth, and I knew she suspected more than I was letting on. I turned toward the mirror, holding the corset in trembling hands. The act of tightening it around my torso was both exhilarating and terrifying. Each pull of the laces reminded me of the dual life I was living. The Alex the world knew and the version of myself that was daring, vulnerable, and undeniably alive. The mirror reflected the transformation in stages, each adjustment amplifying my sense of exposure and thrill. Sitting down to lace the corset, I felt a sudden wave of vulnerability. The fabric pressed against my skin, altering my posture, forcing me into a more delicate stance. Each breath became a conscious effort, each movement measured and deliberate. MIA wandered closer, curious yet cautious, and I realized that my performance had to remain flawless. One slip, one awkward movement, and my secret could unravel in an instant. The adrenaline made my hands shake slightly, but also heightened my awareness. I could feel every sensation: fabric against skin, heels digging into the floor, the subtle pull of the corset reshaping my silhouette. It was a physical reminder that the bet wasn't just about appearance. It was about embodying a persona fully, exploring limits, and navigating vulnerability while under scrutiny. As I stood, the corset tightened perfectly, emphasizing curves that had previously been hidden. I adjusted the wig, smoothed the dress, and took a deep breath. The reflection staring back at me was breathtaking, alien, intoxicating. Alex was still in there, yes, but she had emerged fully, the persona my aunt had challenged me to embrace. I could feel the power in her, the audacity, the thrill of defying my own boundaries. Then came another knock. My pulse skipped. This time it was deliberate, insistent. Not a casual visitor, not a delivery, someone was testing me. My breath caught in my throat. MIA raised an eyebrow, curious and unspoken questions in her eyes. I had no choice but to face it. I opened the door slightly, peeking out cautiously. A familiar voice greeted me. My cousin, Julia. She had a habit of dropping by unannounced, and her presence meant one thing: exposure. I froze, trying to gauge her mood, her intentions. Would she laugh, judge, or unknowingly validate the transformation by treating me normally? "Hey, thought I'd surprise you," she said cheerfully. I forced a smile, my mind racing through every possible escape, every way to keep the persona intact while avoiding embarrassment. Julia's eyes flicked over my outfit, lingering on the heels, the dress, the subtle makeup. I felt my stomach twist in knots. The thrill of transformation had now collided with the very real risk of discovery, and my heart raced with the intoxicating fear of what might happen next. MIA watched silently, a hint of amusement, and perhaps challenge, dancing in her eyes. I realized then that the night had escalated far beyond the simple bet. Every glance, every footstep, every breath carried consequences. The suspense was no longer just internal, it was external, immediate, unavoidable. And the deeper I stepped into the persona, the more powerful, vulnerable, and alive I felt. The apartment felt smaller now, every corner and shadow magnifying the tension coiling in my chest. Julia's sudden appearance had shifted the dynamic entirely. MIA's quiet amusement and curiosity contrasted sharply with the pounding of my heart. I could feel the transformation more intensely than ever, the fabric of the dress hugging my body, the corset pressing tightly against my ribs, and the heels elevating me both physically and emotionally into this daring, intoxicating persona. Julia's gaze lingered just a little too long on the curves emphasized by the corset. My stomach twisted with a mixture of embarrassment and thrill. I forced a casual smile, praying she wouldn't notice anything beyond the surface. My movements became more deliberate, each gesture measured to maintain the persona I had cultivated so carefully. Every step felt like walking a razor's edge between exposure and control. Wow, you look amazing, Julia said finally, her tone filled with surprise, awe, and a hint of teasing curiosity. The words hit me like a jolt of electricity. Amazing. That single word carried validation, judgment, and a subtle challenge all at once. My pulse quickened, and I felt a shiver run through me as I realized how much power this transformation had over perception, how delicate, intoxicating, and frightening it could be. MIA leaned back slightly, observing silently, her expression unreadable. I could feel her eyes tracing every line, every movement. The tension between us crackled like electricity in the air. I had to maintain composure, to act as though everything was normal while every instinct screamed that the secret I had carefully nurtured could slip through in a single misstep. Then my aunt's voice, soft but unmistakable, echoed in my mind. Own it. I took a deep breath, letting the words anchor me. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about fully inhabiting the persona she had challenged me to embrace. The thrill of exposure, the fear of judgment, and the intoxicating rush of transformation intertwined into a single, powerful current that pulsed through me. I excused myself briefly, retreating to the hallway mirror. Standing there, I took in the reflection of her, me, but not quite Alex. Every detail screamed transformation. The carefully applied makeup highlighting delicate features, the wig framing my face perfectly, the corset shaping curves I had never fully acknowledged, and the heels forcing a posture both elegant and commanding. I traced the lines with my fingers, feeling an electric mix of vulnerability and exhilaration. The soft click of footsteps behind me made my heart leap. MIA appeared, leaning lightly against the doorway, her gaze both playful and assessing. You're really committed to this, she murmured. Her words were a whisper, yet they carried weight, sending a thrill through my body. I nodded, unable to speak at first, the persona swallowing my usual hesitations. Julia had wandered closer again, and the proximity of the two of them intensified every feeling, excitement, fear, thrill, and shame blending into a single, heady sensation. The apartment seemed charged, alive, each breath I took magnifying the stakes. My aunt's bet had escalated far beyond mere humiliation. It was now an intricate web of exposure, desire, and transformation that I had to navigate with precision. A sudden movement caught my eye, a misplaced high heel, teetering at the edge of the coffee table. My stomach clenched. One wrong step, one careless motion, and the illusion could crumble. The symbolic weight of that small prop was undeniable. It represented risk, vulnerability, and the fine line between control and chaos. I bent carefully to adjust it, every muscle taut with concentration. When I stood again, I caught a fleeting glance of MIA's expression. There was curiosity, amusement, and something deeper, perhaps recognition of the boldness it took to inhabit this persona fully. The realization hit me like a jolt. This was more than a bet. This was a revelation of self, a test of courage, and a confrontation with desire all at once. I had become both Alex and her, walking the narrow line between fear and exhilaration with every heartbeat. And then, the sound of the door opening softly upstairs made my blood run cold. My aunt, returning to check on her challenge, or perhaps another unexpected visitor. My breath hitched, every nerve in my body on edge. The stakes had never been higher. Every step, every glance, every gesture now mattered more than ever. I was living the bet in real time, exposed in ways I had never imagined, vulnerable yet empowered, terrified yet exhilarated. I glanced at the mirror one last time, taking in the full transformation. The reflection was intoxicating, powerful, and terrifyingly beautiful. I was no longer just Alex hiding in the shadows of my secret life. I was her, fully, daringly, audaciously, and the night had only begun. The real test, the ultimate challenge, was still ahead, waiting just beyond the threshold. The tension in the room was palpable. Every heartbeat, every whisper, every glance seemed magnified. And I knew, with a shiver and a rush of anticipation, that nothing would ever feel quite the same again. The bet had done more than humiliate me, it had transformed me. The moment my aunt's knock echoed through the apartment, my entire body froze. Every instinct screamed panic, yet my heart throbbed with a dangerous mix of fear and exhilaration. I could feel the transformation in every fiber of my being, the heels, the corset, the silky dress, all amplifying my vulnerability while simultaneously giving me a strange, intoxicating power. I was completely exposed, yet completely alive. I took a slow, deliberate breath and walked toward the door, each step measured, heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor. The sound seemed deafening in the tense silence. My reflection in the hallway mirror stared back at me, a stranger and yet undeniably me. The persona I had nurtured over the past hours was now fully alive, ready to face whatever chaos my aunt had in store. The door swung open to reveal her, smiling that sharp, knowing smile that had always unnerved me. "Ready for the next challenge?" she asked, her eyes glinting with mischief. I nodded, swallowing hard, trying to maintain a composed smile. But inside, every nerve was alive, every heartbeat a drum of anticipation and terror. "Good," she said, stepping inside and placing a small box on the table. "Tonight isn't just about looking the part. It's about living it." My pulse quickened as she opened the box, revealing a set of accessories, a delicate necklace, matching earrings, and a small clutch. "These complete her," my aunt said, her tone almost reverent. "Put them on. And remember, any hesitation, any mistake, and you'll learn just how humiliating the bet can be." I took the necklace in trembling hands, feeling the cool metal against my skin. The earrings followed, their delicate weight reminding me of the persona I had fully embraced. I adjusted the clutch, holding it as if it were a shield and a declaration all at once. The reflection in the mirror now showed someone entirely transformed. Alex was gone, replaced by her, daring, elegant, and frighteningly real. But the adrenaline rush didn't last long. A sudden buzz from my phone broke the tense moment.
"Mia."
Another message, just outside again. "Can I come up now?" Panic and thrill collided inside me. My careful preparation, my delicate balancing act, was about to be tested in the harshest way yet. Could I maintain the persona under the scrutiny of someone who knew me intimately, who could recognize even the smallest tremor of truth beneath the act? I moved to hide the box and accessories just as MIA's knock came, louder this time. My aunt's sharp look reminded me, "Own it." I opened the door, forcing a confident smile. MIA stepped inside, her eyes immediately scanning me from head to toe. "You look incredible," she said, her voice a mixture of surprise and admiration. I felt a shiver run through me at the sincerity in her tone. "Thanks," I replied, trying to steady my voice. The heels made every step deliberate, every movement a study in controlled elegance. I handed her the wine glass she had set down earlier, trying to act casual, normal, while inside my mind raced through every possible slip, every risk, every potential exposure. The thrill was intoxicating, and the fear was paralyzing all at once. Then, the unexpected happened. Julia, still lingering, reached for the package I had tucked away earlier. Her fingers brushed against the contents, and my stomach dropped. A slip, a stumble, a single wrong move, and the entire illusion could collapse. I stepped forward subtly, guiding her hand away with a laugh, but the tension was palpable. Every heartbeat felt amplified, every breath weighted with suspense. My aunt watched silently from the corner, her expression a mixture of amusement and approval. The bet had reached its peak. Exposure, temptation, and the intoxicating pull of transformation all converged in a single, precarious moment. I could feel the persona fully asserting itself, the poise, the elegance, the audacity, but beneath it, Alex's fear and vulnerability pulsed sharply, a reminder of the stakes. Suddenly, a sound from the kitchen, the crash of a glass, sent a jolt through me. I spun, heels clicking sharply against the floor, and saw the cat had knocked over a wine glass. Red liquid spread across the floor, shimmering under the dim light. My pulse skyrocketed. Every instinct screamed to panic, to flee, to abandon the persona, but the adrenaline, the thrill, the audacity held me firm. Careful, my aunt's voice sliced through the tension. Every detail matters. Every reaction counts. Her gaze was like fire, measuring me, testing me. I bent carefully to clean the spill, aware that every motion could betray the fragile line between Alex and her. MIA watched quietly, curiosity and fascination in her eyes, while Julia's occasional glances added an unpredictable layer of risk. I straightened, every muscle taut, and forced myself to maintain elegance. The corset hugged tightly, the heels added height, and the dress clung to every curve. I was exposed, tested, and yet powerful in a way I had never felt before. The persona was alive, but so was the fear, and the combination sent a shiver of exhilaration down my spine. And then the moment of ultimate tension arrived. My aunt stepped closer, placing a hand lightly on my shoulder. "One final test," she whispered. "Walk to the mirror. Look at yourself. Own every inch of her. Do it now." I nodded, swallowing hard, and took deliberate steps toward the mirror. Each click of the heels echoed like a drumbeat of suspense. The room seemed to hold its breath as I reached the reflection, every instinct screaming that this moment could shatter everything. The reflection staring back at me was breathtaking, powerful, intoxicating. Alex's fear and her audacity converged into a single entity, and I realized in that instant that I had crossed a threshold. The bet, the challenge, the transformation, it had done more than humiliate. It had reshaped me, exposed me, and empowered me in ways I had never imagined. But as I stared at the mirror, a sudden movement behind me, a shadow, a figure approaching, made my heart seize. Was it Julia reaching too close? MIA stepping forward? Or my aunt, ready to escalate the bet even further? The suspense peaked in a pulse, a single heartbeat stretching into eternity. Every nerve, every instinct, every ounce of courage was tested in that one frozen moment. And then, the cliffhanger. A hand reached toward my reflection, but whose? The shadow behind me froze my blood. Every muscle in my body tensed, heels digging sharply into the floor. I could feel the corset biting against my ribs, the dress clinging like a second skin, and the wig slightly slipping at the nape of my neck. My heart hammered so loudly, I feared it might give me away. The hand approaching the mirror could be anyone, Julia, MIA, or even my aunt, ready to push the next cruel twist in her challenge. "Alex," MIA's voice broke the tense silence, soft but laden with curiosity. I spun slightly, forcing a calm smile, hoping the persona I had perfected could hold against the rising storm. Her eyes studied me, scanning my posture, the elegance in my movements, the delicate sway of my hips. It was as if she could sense every hidden thought, every secret thrill behind my carefully constructed facade. Julia leaned closer, innocently curious, her hand brushing against the edge of the mirror. Panic surged. One wrong movement, one trembling step, and my carefully balanced illusion could collapse completely. I gripped the hem of my dress and tightened my stance, forcing the persona to dominate every inch of my being. Then my aunt's laughter cut through the tension, soft, sharp, and full of knowing delight. "Careful now," she said, circling me like a predator savoring her prey. "Every movement counts. One mistake, and the consequences will be unforgettable." My pulse spiked. The thrill of exposure and the fear of failure collided inside me, creating a dizzying, intoxicating mix that made my hands tremble and my knees feel weak. MIA finally stepped closer, her expression shifting subtly from curiosity to fascination. "You're incredible," she murmured, almost to herself. Her words hit me like fire, validation and danger intertwined. The thrill of being admired while teetering on the edge of exposure sent shivers down my spine. Every inch of the persona I had nurtured was being tested in real time. The room seemed to shrink, every sound amplified, the soft click of heels, the whisper of fabric against skin, the faint hum of tension from the others. I took a careful step toward the mirror, forcing elegance into every gesture, feeling the full weight of the corset and the sway of the dress with each movement. The persona was alive, but the line between Alex and her was razor-thin. One slip, and everything could unravel. Then the unthinkable happened. Julia's hand, reaching too far, knocked the small clutch off the table. It fell with a sharp clatter, sliding across the floor. My heart leapt. Every instinct screamed to grab it, to hide the moment, but the persona demanded poise. I bent carefully, heels threatening to slip, and retrieved the clutch, holding it delicately as if it were an extension of myself. The adrenaline coursing through me was intoxicating, terrifying, but exhilarating. Very composed, my aunt commented approvingly. But can you maintain it if the stakes rise even higher? Her gaze flicked toward the living room doorway, and my stomach twisted. Something was coming. I could feel it, the next escalation, the ultimate test. Suddenly, MIA's hand grazed my arm, lightly, almost accidentally. The shock ran through me like lightning. Her touch was casual, yet intimate, testing boundaries in a way that made every nerve in my body sing with tension. The thrill of being observed and touched while fully inhabiting this persona was almost overwhelming. I swallowed hard, forcing a controlled breath, reminding myself to remain poised, elegant, untouchable. Then the power outage. The lights flickered once, twice, and then darkness swallowed the apartment. My heartbeat raced, heels clicking against the hardwood as I instinctively reached for the nearest wall. The corset pressed tighter against my chest, making every breath conscious, every movement deliberate. The shadows now became both allies and threats, hiding my flaws while magnifying every fear. Perfect timing, my aunt's voice purred from somewhere in the darkness. Let's see how she performs when everything is uncertain. My stomach twisted. The bet had evolved from humiliation into a high-stakes test of composure, elegance, and daring in complete darkness. Every sound, MIA's soft steps, Julia's quiet gasps, my own shaky breaths, echoed like a drum of suspense. I felt my way toward the mirror, now partially illuminated by the streetlight seeping through the curtains. The reflection was fractured, shadowed, but unmistakably her. Alex's fear mingled with her audacity, and I realized that the persona had taken control in the most primal, exhilarating way. Each movement, each breath, was a test of nerve, poise, and daring. A sudden movement behind me made me whirl around, a hand reaching, a whisper of sound. Was it Julia, MIA, or my aunt's silent challenge? My pulse spiked. The room was alive with suspense, every shadow a potential reveal, every heartbeat a countdown to exposure. The thrill of transformation had collided with the fear of discovery in the most intense way imaginable. I straightened, heels digging into the floor, dress swaying perfectly. The persona dominated completely, yet inside, Alex screamed with excitement and fear. Every second was a test, every glance a challenge, every movement a delicate balancing act on the edge of exposure. The bet, the transformation, the thrill, it had all led to this suspended moment of ultimate suspense. And then, the lights flickered back on, casting harsh clarity across the room. Every shadow revealed, every glance exposed. MIA and Julia were frozen, eyes wide. My aunt's smirk was sharp, triumphant. I stood perfectly poised, every inch the persona, but inside, my heart raced with the intoxicating mix of fear, excitement, and audacious exhilaration. The ultimate test had arrived, and I had survived for now. The lights came back on, but the tension didn't fade. It only intensified. Every corner of the apartment seemed sharper, every shadow more dangerous. My heart hammered against the cage of my corset as I forced myself to remain composed, heels clicking softly but confidently against the floor. The persona I had embraced was fully alive, yet beneath it, Alex's fear and excitement danced a volatile, thrilling duet. MIA's eyes scanned me slowly, a flicker of recognition and curiosity in her gaze. She stepped closer, deliberate, her heels making a soft rhythm against the wood. "You've changed," she said, her voice quiet but loaded with meaning. The words sent shivers down my spine, half admiration, half accusation. I swallowed hard, fighting to maintain poise, elegance, and the delicate balance between Alex and her. Julia lingered nearby, watching silently. Every subtle movement she made felt like a test. Would she speak, laugh, or expose me accidentally? My pulse quickened, adrenaline sharpening every sense. The persona demanded perfection, demanded elegance, demanded audacity, but the stakes were higher than ever. One slip, one wrong gesture, one falter in voice or posture, and everything could shatter. Then my aunt moved. She approached, her presence magnetic, almost predatory. "Now," she whispered, "let's see how well she can navigate attention and desire simultaneously." Her words struck deep. The bet had transformed from a simple humiliation into a labyrinth of suspense, exposure, and emotional intensity. Every step I took, every breath I drew, carried consequences. I adjusted the corset once more, feeling the tight embrace of fabric shaping every inch of my torso. The dress swayed around my legs as I moved gracefully toward the living room. My reflection in the mirror caught my attention. The persona was undeniable. Every inch of her elegance, every tremor of fear and thrill, was visible in that reflection. I traced the outline with a trembling finger, feeling the intoxicating mix of power and vulnerability. Suddenly, Julia reached for the wine glass again, her hand brushing against mine. The touch, accidental or deliberate, made me flinch inwardly. The heat of embarrassment, the thrill of exposure, and the raw vulnerability of my transformation collided in a shocking jolt. I straightened immediately, forcing a calm, elegant smile. The persona demanded it. My survival depended on it. MIA's hand lightly grazed my waist as she passed by, close enough that I could feel her warmth. My knees threatened to buckle, but I held my stance. Every movement, every glance, was now a high-wire act between perfection and disaster. My aunt's eyes followed every motion, a silent judge of my poise and daring. Then, the unexpected twist. The phone rang, shrill and urgent. My hands shook as I fumbled for it, knowing that answering could escalate exposure, reveal my persona, or tip the delicate balance into chaos. MIA raised an eyebrow, curious, while Julia glanced toward the sound, confused. I took a deep breath and answered, my voice melodic yet steady. "Hello." I managed, trying to maintain elegance. The voice on the other end was sharp, unexpected. It was my boss calling unexpectedly. Panic surged through me. How could I explain my situation while fully transformed? The adrenaline mixed with fear, creating a heady, almost paralyzing cocktail. Every instinct screamed to retreat, to hide, but the persona demanded boldness. I forced a smile, even though the caller couldn't see me. "Yes, of course," I said, my tone confident, soft, alluring even. The conversation itself became a performance, a delicate dance where one wrong word or slip could reveal everything. Every subtle shift of my posture, every inflection of my voice, had to be perfect. The persona had to dominate completely. Meanwhile, my aunt circled me, whispering sharp instructions under her breath, reminding me to own every inch of the transformation. MIA's gaze lingered, filled with fascination and curiosity. Julia's presence added tension, an unpredictable element that could tip everything at any moment. The room was a storm of observation, exposure, and heightened stakes. As I ended the call, the adrenaline hadn't subsided. My hands trembled slightly, the corset digging into my ribs, the heels forcing me to balance every step with precision. I glanced at the mirror once more, and for a brief, intoxicating moment, I saw her fully. The persona I had embraced completely. The thrill of the bet, the humiliation, and the transformation collided into a singular, overwhelming reality. Then, disaster struck. The high heel I had carefully placed near the coffee table slipped, tipping over with a sharp clatter. My stomach lurched. Every instinct screamed to recover, to maintain the persona, to avoid embarrassment. I bent carefully, picking it up with trembling hands, my reflection in the mirror capturing the blend of elegance, fear, and audacious thrill that defined the moment. "You're handling this beautifully," my aunt whispered, her words both encouragement and challenge. "But can you keep it together under the ultimate test?" My pulse spiked. The challenge was clear. This night, this bet, this transformation had reached its peak. Exposure, fear, desire, and thrill now collided in a singular, suspense-filled crescendo. I straightened, taking a deliberate step toward MIA, heels clicking sharply. My persona radiated poise, confidence, and audacious femininity. Every motion was a test, every glance a battle between vulnerability and control. I realized then that the night wasn't just a challenge, it was a revelation. The bet had done more than humiliate. It had exposed, tested, and transformed me in ways I had never imagined. And just as I reached the mirror, a sudden noise from behind, the soft, unmistakable shuffle of someone approaching, made my pulse freeze. The climax of suspense had arrived, the ultimate exposure looming. Every nerve, every muscle, every ounce of courage was stretched to its limit. The soft shuffle behind me sent a shiver down my spine. My heels clicked sharply against the floor as I spun slightly, the persona holding firm despite the panic bubbling beneath the surface. Every muscle tensed, every breath measured. I could feel the corset digging into my ribs, restricting yet amplifying every motion. The reflection in the mirror stared back. Alex was gone. She had fully emerged. MIA's eyes flickered with a mixture of fascination and mischief. "You're really committed to this," she whispered, close enough that I felt the heat of her breath. My pulse spiked, adrenaline surging through me like wildfire. Every instinct screamed caution, yet the thrill of being observed, tested, and admired in equal measure made my heart pound faster. Then, Julia, still lingering, accidentally nudged the small clutch I had retrieved earlier. It toppled onto the floor, spilling its contents, lipstick, compact, delicate jewelry, across the polished hardwood. My stomach lurched. Panic and thrill collided, my mind racing to maintain control. Every second counted. Every movement could betray the persona I had worked so hard to embody. I bent carefully, retrieving the items with a trembling hand. Each motion was deliberate, elegant, and poised, but the adrenaline surged with each passing heartbeat. My aunt circled, a predator in human form, her sharp smile a constant reminder of the stakes. "Beautiful control," she murmured, her voice soft but dangerous. "But can she keep it if everything threatens to collapse?" As I straightened, MIA moved closer, her gaze fixed on me with unnerving intensity. She stepped near, her hand brushing against mine lightly, and the shock sent an electric jolt through my body. My knees threatened to buckle, but I forced composure, reminding myself that the persona demanded perfection. The thrill of exposure mingled with the fear of discovery, creating a dizzying cocktail of emotion I could hardly control. Then, a sudden noise from the kitchen, glass breaking. The cat had knocked over a delicate vase, shattering it into pieces across the floor. My heart leapt violently. Every instinct screamed to panic, to flee, but the persona demanded elegance, poise, control. I knelt carefully to pick up the shards, feeling the tension in every muscle as my reflection caught every tremor, every breath, every flicker of fear. Julia froze, eyes wide, and MIA bit her lip, curiosity mingling with amusement. My aunt's smirk widened, sensing the perfect storm of vulnerability and daring. "This is it," she whispered. "The moment she either thrives or falters under pressure." My chest tightened, the corset constricting, the heels forcing balance, the dress clinging to every curve. I felt alive, terrified, and exhilarated all at once. I stood slowly, heels clicking confidently against the floor. The persona radiated poise and audacious femininity, yet beneath the surface, Alex's fear screamed with every heartbeat. Every glance, every subtle motion, every breath was a test. And then, as if on cue, the final escalation occurred. The front door opened abruptly. A shadow fell across the living room, and my pulse jumped into overdrive. Who could it be now? Another neighbor? A delivery? Or someone who could expose everything I had worked to maintain? My breath hitched, adrenaline surging as I forced myself to remain composed, elegant, unshakable. The figure stepped into the room, and my heart froze. My aunt had invited someone else into the apartment without warning. A stranger, or perhaps a friend of MIA's, someone who had no idea about the bet, the transformation, or the secret I had nurtured. My mind raced. How could I maintain the persona without revealing the truth? Every inch of composure mattered now. MIA's hand brushed my arm as I passed by, a subtle anchor in the chaos. Her presence reminded me to maintain elegance, to own every inch of the transformation. Julia watched silently, a mixture of awe and curiosity in her eyes. And my aunt, ever the orchestrator, observed with a sharp, predatory smile. Then, a sudden slip. One heel caught on the edge of the rug, and I stumbled slightly, clutching the arm of the couch to regain balance. My heart raced violently. The room froze, all eyes on me. But somehow, the persona held. Elegance returned in a heartbeat, poise restored, and the aura of confidence radiated effortlessly, masking the panic beneath. Impressive, my aunt whispered, voice barely audible but charged with meaning. She's learning to thrive even when everything threatens to unravel. My chest heaved with adrenaline, every nerve alive with tension. The thrill of surviving exposure, of embodying the persona fully under extreme scrutiny, was intoxicating. As I straightened and moved toward the mirror again, the persona solidified completely. The reflection staring back was breathtaking, daring, and terrifyingly real. Alex's fear and her audacity merged, creating a perfect balance of vulnerability and power. The final challenge of the night was upon me, and every second, every glance, every breath counted. Then, the final twist. A sudden movement behind me made my heart seize. Another shadow, another approach. Was it Julia, MIA, or my aunt's final test? Every nerve screamed danger. Every heartbeat was a countdown. And in that moment, I realized that the bet had done more than humiliate or transform. It had exposed me fully, stripped me bare emotionally and physically, and demanded that I embrace her completely or collapse under the weight of suspense. The room seemed to hold its breath, every shadow poised, every gaze fixed. My heart pounded, every muscle taut, every sense heightened. The climax of suspense had reached its peak, the ultimate revelation waiting just beyond the next heartbeat. The shadow loomed closer, and my heart leapt into my throat. Every nerve in my body screamed danger, yet the persona I had nurtured over the past hours held me upright, poised, commanding, even as Alex's fear surged like a storm inside me. The heels pressed firmly against the floor, every step a tightrope walk between exposure and mastery. MIA's gaze followed me, a mixture of fascination, amusement, and subtle challenge in her eyes. "You're handling this remarkably," she murmured, her voice low enough that only I could hear. The heat of her words sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. Each syllable was a test, a whisper that threatened to unravel me if I faltered even slightly. Julia's eyes darted between me and the shadowed figure, curiosity mingling with fear. The apartment seemed to shrink around us, the walls closing in as tension pulsed through every corner. My aunt remained silent, her sharp smirk a constant reminder that I was dancing on the edge of humiliation and revelation. Then, the figure stepped fully into the light. It was my cousin, unexpectedly visiting for a late-night check-in. My stomach dropped. He had no idea about the bet, the transformation, or the secret persona I now inhabited. Panic surged, but I forced a deep, controlled breath. The persona demanded elegance, audacity, and poise above all else. I moved slowly, deliberately, letting the dress sway and the heels dictate each motion. Every glance, every subtle gesture, was calculated to maintain the illusion. The persona radiated confidence, daring, and allure, masking the panic that threatened to betray me at every second. "Alex," my cousin asked, his voice uncertain. Are you dressed up for something?" The word struck like a spark in a powder keg. My pulse skyrocketed. How could I respond without revealing the truth? Every option seemed perilous, every misstep potentially catastrophic. I forced a soft, elegant laugh, the persona wrapping around my voice like armor. "Just experimenting," I said, letting the words linger ambiguously. The persona held, yet beneath it, Alex's panic and excitement clashed violently. I could feel every fiber of my body alive with tension, the corset tight against my chest, the heels balancing precariously, the wig slightly slipping at the nape. My aunt's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Yes, keep her guessing," she whispered. "Let her believe she knows, but she doesn't. That's the art of transformation." My chest heaved with adrenaline, the thrill of suspense and the fear of discovery intertwining into a heady, almost paralyzing mix. MIA moved closer, her hand lightly brushing my arm. The touch was grounding, yet electrifying. Every nerve sparked, every heartbeat a drum of exposure and audacious thrill. I swallowed hard, forcing my persona to dominate fully. The balance between elegance and vulnerability, between Alex and her, was razor-thin, but it held. Then, the ultimate challenge. My aunt handed me a small envelope, its contents unknown. "Open it," she commanded softly. My hands trembled as I broke the seal, revealing a note inside. "Tonight, she becomes more than a persona. She becomes the truth." My pulse thundered in my chest. What did it mean? A test? A revelation? Exposure? The stakes had reached an unimaginable height. Before I could process, Julia's curiosity got the better of her, and she leaned in slightly, whispering, "Are you really her?" Panic surged anew, but the persona forced poise, elegance, and audacity to the forefront. I straightened, heels clicking sharply, gaze steady, voice smooth and confident. "She is," I whispered, letting the ambiguity linger. The room was electric, every shadow, every glance, every whisper magnified into a crescendo of suspense. My cousin stared, MIA's eyes gleamed with fascination, Julia's curiosity simmered, and my aunt's smirk sharpened like a blade. Every heartbeat, every breath, every subtle movement was a test of composure, daring, and identity. Then a stumble. One heel caught the edge of the rug, sending me slightly off balance. Panic surged, but I recovered immediately, letting the motion appear deliberate, elegant, calculated. The persona remained flawless, yet Alex's adrenaline screamed beneath the surface. The thrill of near exposure, the fear of discovery, and the intoxicating power of transformation collided into a single, overwhelming rush. Finally, my reflection in the mirror caught my attention. I saw her fully. Alex and the persona merged, elegance and audacity, fear and thrill, vulnerability and power. The bet, the challenge, the transformation, it had done more than humiliate or test me. It had revealed, reshaped, and transformed me into someone both daring and unrecognizable. And just as I reached out to adjust the wig, a sudden sound, the soft, deliberate click of another approaching heel, made my blood run cold. Every nerve tensed. The ultimate moment of suspense, exposure, and revelation had arrived. The night had pushed me to the edge, and there was no turning back. The soft click of approaching heels made my pulse spike. Every muscle in my body tensed, every breath measured, every heartbeat amplified in the charged silence of the apartment. The persona I had fully embraced, elegant, daring, audacious, was alive, yet beneath it, Alex's fear and vulnerability pulsed sharply. Every instinct screamed that the ultimate moment had arrived. MIA stepped closer, her eyes locked on mine, and for a brief second, I felt completely exposed. Her gaze was both curious and approving, a mirror reflecting everything I had become. "You've changed," she murmured, her voice low, almost reverent. The words hit me like lightning, the thrill and fear colliding into an intoxicating storm. Julia lingered nearby, hesitant, her gaze flickering between admiration and uncertainty. The small clutch I had carefully retrieved earlier lay at my feet, a symbol of my delicate balancing act. My aunt's presence loomed like a predator in the shadows, her smirk sharp and knowing, silently reminding me that every second counted. Then, the door creaked, the unmistakable sound of someone entering. My stomach dropped. Another visitor? Or the culmination of my aunt's challenge? Every nerve screamed panic. The persona demanded poise, but Alex's fear threatened to unravel everything. My heels clicked sharply as I moved toward the living room, every step deliberate, every sway calculated to maintain elegance and control. A figure stepped fully into the room. My breath caught. The visitor was MIA's friend, a stranger to the apartment, to the bet, to my transformation. Panic surged, but the persona held. I forced a graceful smile, letting confidence radiate outward while the adrenaline surged through every vein. "You look incredible," the friend said, voice uncertain. The words hit like a spark, igniting a rush of fear, excitement, and exhilaration. Every motion, every glance, every breath was now a delicate dance on the razor's edge between exposure and mastery. My aunt's voice, soft but sharp, cut through the tension. "Remember, every detail matters. Every reaction is part of the game." I felt my pulse thunder, every nerve alive with the intoxicating mixture of thrill and dread. The persona demanded perfection, elegance, audacity, and I delivered, each movement precise, each word carefully chosen. Then disaster. The small clutch shifted under my hand, spilling its contents slightly. Lipstick rolled across the hardwood floor. My chest tightened, my heart raced. Every eye in the room seemed to focus on that tiny, revealing misstep. But I recovered instantly, letting the motion appear deliberate, elegant, even playful. The persona held firm, but the tension was unbearable. MIA stepped closer, her hand brushing against mine ever so slightly. The touch was grounding yet electrifying. I swallowed hard, forcing calm elegance to dominate, even as Alex's fear and thrill surged violently beneath the surface. Every second, every subtle glance, every movement was a test, a challenge, a step further into the unknown. The stranger took a cautious step forward. "Are you dressed up for something?" she asked, curiosity and hesitation in her voice. Panic gripped me, but the persona commanded control. "Just exploring a new look," I replied smoothly, voice soft, melodic, perfectly pitched. The room seemed to hold its breath, every gaze fixed, every heartbeat stretched into eternity. Suddenly, a shadow flickered across the hallway. My aunt's smirk widened. "One last surprise," she whispered. My stomach lurched. Every muscle tensed. Was this the final test, the ultimate challenge designed to push me over the edge? Every second stretched, every nerve alive with suspense, every breath a precarious balancing act. MIA's eyes met mine, her expression unreadable but intense. "You're remarkable," she whispered. Admiration, curiosity, and perhaps suspicion all intertwined in that single phrase. My heart raced. Could the persona survive this ultimate scrutiny? Could I maintain control under the combined weight of fear, desire, and exposure? Then, the unexpected. A faint sound behind me, almost imperceptible, yet distinct, a soft whisper, a shuffle of movement, a hint of someone else approaching. Every muscle coiled like a spring. The persona radiated poise, elegance, audacity, yet the tension was electric, raw, and undeniable. Every glance, every step, every breath became a potential trigger for discovery. I moved carefully toward the mirror, letting the persona shine fully. The reflection staring back was breathtaking, confident, dangerous, and alive. Alex's fear mingled with her audacity, creating a perfect balance of vulnerability and power. The room seemed to pulse with suspense, the stakes higher than ever, the outcome uncertain. Then, a hand reached toward the mirror. The sudden motion froze my heart. Was it Julia, MIA, or my aunt's final, twisted test? The world seemed to slow, every sound amplified, the soft click of heels, the whisper of fabric, the rapid thump of my pulse. My breath caught. Every nerve, every muscle, every ounce of courage was tested in that singular, suspended moment. The apartment fell silent, the tension unbearable, every gaze fixed. The persona radiated perfection, audacity, and elegance, yet beneath it, Alex's fear screamed in sharp, intoxicating pulses. And then, just as I reached to steady the wig at the nape of my neck, the story paused, frozen on the edge of revelation. Who would discover the truth first? Would the persona hold, or would Alex's fear finally shatter the illusion? Every heartbeat, every glance, every subtle motion poised on the knife edge of suspense. And in that moment, the screen fades to black.